Welcome to Movie Friends. My name is Seth. Is it possible to love someone that you don't like? Is it possible to agitate your audience while also giving them a good time? Michelle and I spoke with writer and director Bridge Stewart and actor Nikki McKenzie about their new feature film, A Fantastic Relationship. It's about a couple who break up and then are immediately forced to spend an entire day together. It's funny, it's weird, and it was one of our favorite movies we saw at this year's Stony Brook Film Festival. We spoke with them about improv, how to get started making stuff for yourself, and how saying yes can give your power back to you. Here's our conversation with Bridge and Nikki. We hope you enjoy it.
How are you liking Port Jeff? It's beautiful, right? I mean, I know today is raining, but
It is.
nice.
It's gorgeous.
It's been great. I've talked with several people that says it feels like kind of like a movie set.
I
in a lot
know.
of
How
ways.
come nothing has ever been? I mean, I say this all the time. Something needs to be filmed or written about Port Jeff, and that could be the set for it.
Yeah,
The small.
feels
Yeah.
like a Jaws movie could be shot here.
Probably because it's incredibly expensive.
Well, sure. It needs to be recreated elsewhere, but it can be inspired by.
Yes. We watched the movie the other day, and I thought Michelle had already seen it before. So I was texting her, and I was like, I'm only 3 minutes in, and I'm already laughing a bunch. This is great. And she's like, oh, I haven't seen it yet. But we really, really enjoyed it. And I kind of was, I don't want to say surprised, but there's definitely some surprising elements to how it's written and how some of the jokes play out.
Really? Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm glad it was surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel it's such a good balance because it's about, well, how I took it, like it's a balance of complexity of relationships, like the relationships we have within ourselves and the relationships with another person. Can you talk about the inspiration for this story being made into a feature? And are there any themes you took from the videos you make, your shorts or YouTube videos?
Yeah, I mean, so I think a lot of this comes from like a lot of the story and a lot of the shorts, which are kind of feel like they're in the same world a lot of the time as this movie is, finding humor in some of the not so pleasant times in relationships, like sometimes when things aren't going so great, that's oftentimes when things are the funniest. And that is sort of, yeah, I guess I think that was sort of the starting off point. I was in a relationship, and there was moments in it where it felt like it was more arguing than enjoying each other's company at a certain point. But, she and I could still zoom out, I guess, and still find how we would act pretty funny. And I think a lot of this movie sort of deals with the idea of like, can you love somebody that you might not necessarily like, like where it's like, you butt heads so much and underneath it, you love them. But man, on the day to day, sometimes it's pretty rough. And I think that's a great ground for, humor and sort of delving into the, minutia of a relationship and stuff.
Absolutely. You wrote, directed, acted, edited. Was this the plan to do all of the things?
Kind of, yeah. It sort of like in writing a lot of this stuff, it's like in independent film, it's like you kind of have to write with a producer's hat on, right? Like you can't just say, oh yeah, I want a huge like train robbery scene in this film. You have to write with like that in mind. And I knew it was going to be a small production. I knew it was going to be, I wanted to work with certain people like Nikki, like the other talent in the film who are great. And how could I construct a film around these great people? And, in order to do that, you kind of just have to write it and just get it off the ground yourself and stop waiting for people, because you can wait around for years to get projects greenlit, to get money for things, and sometimes you just got to go out and shoot the dang thing. So that was kind of, a lot of that was just being a part of it. And, it's fun to act too. So I wanted to do that with this. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there one you prefer over the other?
No, I don't. I kind of consider it all just sort of one big mushed up thing, like the writing, the directing, the acting, it all kind of flows together at a certain point. Like setting up lights might not be like as part of that process for me, even though like kind of had to do that sometimes. But, yeah, no, I consider it kind of all one sort of flowy process. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole cast is amazing. You and Nikki have great chemistry.
Yes.
Nikki, you were amazing. I noticed Will and Dustin were in the movie, and I've seen them on, in your YouTube videos and stuff. Did you know Nikki beforehand, or how was it when you casted her?
Yeah, Nikki and I, we go back a lot. Here, I'll let Nikki explain this. How do we know each other?
Yeah, dude, we've been friends since college. Crazy. And we've done a couple,
Wow.
we did two sketches together, Bridge?
Something like that, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I was a fan
sketches
of Bridget's sketches.
Yeah, I think
forever.
we did too. Yeah,
we did too. I was a fan of Bridget's sketches forever, and then we had that relationship from before. So then then we like reconnected and did those too, because I was already a fan of his work. I was like, please put me in. And then this came out of, I was honored when Bridge called and was like, hey, you're perfect for this. I'd love to have you. I was like, dude, it was very kismet. I feel like it was very meant to be. But if you're picking up on the chemistry, it's like we're genuinely friends, and I'm a fan of Bridge as a person. So it's the easiest to have chemistry when you like somebody.
Yeah. We don't hate each other quite as much as we do in this movie. So no,
Well, actually,
Well,
it was so funny because
it was a couple days, I guess.
when we were, doing the film, that sometimes there were moments where like we'd take a break from the characters and obviously like talk as ourselves, and like Thomas would be like, "You guys, you don't like each other, remember?" like I remember I'd have to be like, "Oh yeah, this is not Bridge anymore. This is this relationship." So it took a minute to like switch gears sometimes for me to be like annoyed all the time,
Yeah.
We're annoyed quite a bit with each other in this film. Yeah.
But not off screen, so.
Something I really enjoyed about this film, I'm someone who, when a person is annoying on screen, I'm actually annoyed by them. And it's because they're doing a good job. But it's like I associate them with just not good feelings. And something that I loved about this is that for both of your characters, you guys played them in a way that's like understandable. Nikki, you weren't like so over the top, angry, annoyed, and Bridge wasn't so annoyed with you and aloof and weird. Like, yes, it's characters, but I could see, a lot really from Nikki, from your perspective. I was like, this dude is insane. So it's like you guys, it's like you played them as annoyed, but at no point does it veer into like, oh, I don't really care for this person anymore. You know what I mean?
That's the best compliment. Thank you.
That's great.
Oh
yeah.
You're welcome.
I think with the annoyance, for me, like there has to be love underneath it for it to be real. Because in any relationship, especially relationships that are toxic like this, where you're so attached, there is so much love. Like that line between hate and love is so thin. And so I think that was like the basis. Like for me, that's the best compliment, because I think you have to love someone first in order to get that bothered by them.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like a lot of, it's annoying, but it's also like, motivated too. Cause it's like people want different things in relationships. And it's like, my character in it, he's pretty needy with a lot of things. And it's like, that's a valid thing, but it's also kind of annoying to someone who isn't necessarily like that, who wants space, who wants to focus on other things, who wants to focus on their career or something. And just that sort of clash of wanting different things comes off as annoying to the other person and, sometimes the audience. But it ultimately is rooted in a place that's, real, that it's real for those characters. They want those things, even though it is, it can come off a little obnoxious sometimes. Yeah.
Sure.
Can you talk more about, Bridge, your writing style and working comedy into it? I think you do a really good job balancing the two of like adding the real life into with delivering with comedy.
Thank you so much. I really just like comedy that comes where it's not trying to be too funny. Like I think sort of a lot of the death of comedy is trying to be funny, and it's just it needs to come from like a real place, real emotions, real relationship dynamics, things like that, and comedy coming from real places. And that was kind of the goal with this film and the shorts I make is obviously the situations can get crazy, which they do in this film and in the shorts. I mean, Nikki was in a short that I did where a guy proposes to her after a trip to SeaWorld. So like, there can be the situation can be crazy as long as it's grounded in a reality, and that's what I think. You can get away with a lot as long as you're just honest with yourself and with the audience. And I think that's kind of my goal, is to just be as honest as possible with where the comedy comes from.
I think that's why I'm such a fan of like Bridges' writing and his acting, is because like he writes things where I think why it's funny is because you identify with it. Like you see yourself in these very real kind of normal conversations, which is like my favorite part about like your writing and your acting, because that's why I think it's so funny. It's like we've all been in this dysfunctional relationship where you loved someone, but you were frustrated. There's such a realism to the acting and the writing. So I love that because I think anyone could watch it and identify with a certain aspect of that fight or that conversation.
Yeah. Do you guys consider this a rom-com? Because like there's that romantic relationship at the center, but it feels like a modern day story of just like self-reflection. I don't know. To me, it just self-reflection, right? It's not.
It's odd because, and we don't want to give anything away about the end of the movie or the overall arc of the film because we want people to see this, but it does in several points defy definition a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, like, I guess in regards to the idea of a rom-com, I would like to think it is on a certain level, but like, it's funny because like modern rom-coms are very kind of structurally tight in like how their structure is. Like they hate each other at first in a small town, and then they, eventually grow to like each other and stuff. This isn't that. It is a little different. I think I would kind of almost compare it more to like some of the like more like I guess you'd call them screwball comedies of like the 1940s
Definitely.
and 50s, something like that. Like kind of like a Philadelphia Story, things like that, where it's like has those elements of a rom-com, but it's not so structurally built like a rom-com. I would like to call it a rom-com. It's there's romance, there's comedy and stuff. You're dealing with relationship stuff. But maybe not according to like, the standards of right now. But yeah, in short, yes, it is a rom-com.
I'll take it. Yeah, it's kind of also like having a romantic relationship with yourself too, I think.
Totally. And I love that it's like backward,
absolutely.
kind of. You know what I mean? It like I feel like it's I don't want to say it's the anti-rom-com, but it is, or like I don't want to give anything away, but like I think of The Breakup too. Like that movie was very funny to me. Did you see it with Vince Vaughn? Like there's an interesting like
sure.
There's a turn on the idea of the rom-com, right? But it's still people that are like very intertwined and that love each other, which or attached. I think however you want to take that, because I think I love that it's kind of a little open-ended at the end too, because it's up to you to decide kind of if these people
I love that too. Not everything needs to just be shown to us. We can have our own opinions about it too.
Yeah, exactly.
So Nikki, you have a very impressive IMDb
Oh,
of a lot of different roles on major stuff. And I really loved you in this movie. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what is going on with Nikki McKenzie? How did you get into acting? And was that planned from a young person? Like, how did that all start?
oh, that's so interesting. I think I always wanted to act, but it wasn't like I wasn't really serious about it until college, really, because my family didn't really support it. They were, my family immigrated from the Philippines, and
Sure.
they were very much like, you got to be stable. But then when I was in college, I like kept taking theater classes, and like the head of the department was like, yo, like you could double major. Like, what are you doing? Like, you keep showing up to these classes, because I was an English lit major. And then, I think it's something I always love to do. And then I just got the courage to do it after school. And then I just got lucky. Like I started working and at least like had jobs in between gigs to kind of sustain me until the next job. And, it's always, it was the dream, but I wasn't brave enough to say it until after school.
So glad you did.
Me
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Me too. Yeah. I mean, for all of us, right? Any
too.
creative, I think it's scary to be like, I guess I'm going to do this, But I do think when you follow what you love, things tend to work out, even if it's not on your timeline.
Yeah, absolutely.
I loved, I don't know if I can say it's my favorite scene, but I would say, let's see, how do I want to say this without making Bridge feel bad?
No, make me feel bad. It's fine. I'm okay. I need that.
One of my favorite scenes in the film is the dinner scene. And you and Samantha Kudaran, who plays Natalie, your sister, you both get an opportunity to kind of just be there and go through a lot of different emotions and a lot of different faces as the conversation progresses. And I was curious about, like, did you have time to rehearse that with her? How long did that take to shoot? And then I know you said your family wasn't supportive of you necessarily becoming an actor, but did you bring any real world experience into that scene?
Ooh, good question. Oh, I'll answer
It's
that.
like 3 questions. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, wait. The first question was, did we rehearse it? Right? That was the first one. Yes, we did rehearse that bridge. We did, right? I'm like, we did night shoots those days. So we were shooting, I think, until like 6 a.m. So I remember getting to set. We would rehearse them, and then we would go. And then luckily, Bridge and I also like had this chemistry already. So that you have it or you don't, in my opinion, thankfully. And we had it. So, but yeah, we did rehearse it. They were night shoots. Sam and I also know each other. We're friends. So that was also easier in terms of the sister relationship. And yeah, I definitely brought real life experience to it because, I think I have sisters and I love them, but I also have complicated relationships with them. And I think we can all relate to feeling like not enough, and I think that's what I really clung on to with my character, was just like, it not necessarily like the competition is that there is a reality to that I think, or at least that I've experienced, that you work through as you become adults. And it has nothing to do with not loving your sister. It's more just like not loving yourself and like just the bar to which you hold yourself up against. And so I just tapped into that shit of like, this person just doesn't like herself. She's not the perfect one. And that was easy because my parents weren't supportive of this at first. So that was really easy to be like, I'm the disappointing one, So that was right, very real to feel.
Yeah. And Seth, honestly, like, that's my favorite scene of the movie too. So don't feel too bad about saying that. I mean, I really love that scene and what they both bring to it, just because like so much of what happens in it is what isn't said like
Mhm.
and like you said, you see it in their faces, right? Like you see
Mhm.
the simmering sort of resentment thing that are building with them underneath it, and they both did such a great job at portraying that. Just this sort of years of built up anger between these two people. I think they really. I mean, it's great, and it's my favorite scene too. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and it works out, for the audience because this is what we've been working towards. This is what all of the crazy stuff that happens before is in service of this moment, right? And I love that you really just like simmer in that for a long time. I rewatched it a few times. And the reason that I said that I felt bad saying it is because Bridge throughout that entire sequence is literally just sitting there. He's
But
just kind
that's
of sitting
also
there
what makes
taking
it so
drinks.
funny to me.
Yes.
Part of what I loved too, and I don't know if this was subconscious or conscious or not on your part, Bridge, but what your film really captures is the inherent evil nature of dinner parties.
Yes.
And everyone sitting around trying to impress each other with how smart they are and
Yeah.
what they're doing in life. And I was just like, oh yeah, I can relate to absolutely hating this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of it comes from also just me. Like, I hate talking about myself too much, like
Yeah.
at these things. And I mean, I feel like that's the point of a dinner party is like to talk about yourself. And then you pass the baton on to somebody else who talks about themselves. And especially if it's, in this case, strangers, or like, you're in a setting where there's people around you that you don't know. But yeah, it's dinner parties are awkward. Yeah, I think that's the root of it, and what happens when you also put in a deep family sort of struggle between that as
Mm-hmm.
well is ripe for kind of some pretty funny things.
So I'm curious for both of you. How did you guys get into movies? At what point in your life did you realize like I could make a movie or I could be part of that? Or what was the influence? Did you grow up with it in your house?
I've always loved movies. My mom was a single mom, which is amazing. I don't know how she did it, but so my babysitter was the
Yes.
TV. I watched a ton of movies and a ton of TV, and I've always loved them. So, like to the point where when I would play pretend, it was always like I was in the movie, either acting the movie out or
Mm.
continuing, or so in that sense, I've always loved them. What about you, Bridge?
Is Jurassic Park. I saw that,
Mm.
and then I walked out of the theater and said, "I want to do that."
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though this movie's a little different than Jurassic Park,
Sure.
I think like it's just the idea of you learn what you want to do in that medium, I guess. And the thing I particularly like is just character relationship stuff, and so you gravitate towards other things like I think like things like Noah Baumbach and Larry David, things like that. It's just it drives you along, and you find what you really really like on the journey, and you hope, and you start off imitating them, and then suddenly maybe you might develop your own voice out of it. So
Sure.
that's kind of been the journey for me, I guess, with that.
Yeah, in trying to find information about you guys ahead of this, I stumbled upon what I believe might be your Letterboxd account, Bridge.
Oh yeah.
And I saw, well, this is not confirmed, listeners. This is also
This is
Uh-oh.
lore. This
but
is lore.
but this particular Letterboxd account had Putney Swope in the top 4.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, I'm probably just trying to like look smart. Like, no, but I legitimately do love that movie. I
Yeah.
really do love Putney Swope. For those that don't know, it's Robert Downey Sr.'s kind
Yes.
of big movie that he did.
Yes.
It's very absurdist, very kind of, it's almost, I don't know how to describe it really. It's kind of almost like networkish kind of, like it's
It's
very
a little
absurd.
indescribable. Yeah, it's but absurd is a great place to start. And like when I saw that after watching A Fantastic Relationship, it brought me back to a lot of different setups and payoffs throughout the movie. And the one that I want to mention, which I will freely mention because it's what starts the movie, when we get the Alexa joke towards the beginning, which I was just like, I loved that so much. The tattoo reveal is awesome as well because, but the Alexa joke goes beyond just like that's a funny person, or like, that's a funny line, because it starts to play with the form a little bit, right? Because as the audience, we think the score is kicking in. So my question for you is there something in you as a person who is funny and as a person who is writing, making film, is there something inside of you that wants to agitate or disrupt your audience?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think it's like, yeah, the goal is to piss off the audience as much as possible.
I agree.
No.
I agree, by the way. I agree with that.
No, yeah. I mean, it's all about, tension and release with
Mhm.
movies. It's about rhythm. Rhythm is a big thing for me. Like I work a lot as an editor for things. And so I edited this film, and it's all about rhythm to carry people from scene to scene, and amplifying tension until, I mean, I would dare say it's unbearable at times. And then to be able to release after that is such a kind of great experience to have in a movie. And some of my favorite experiences to have in a movie where it's just, you feel like it's almost too much. You're sitting in a theater and you're like, man, why did I put myself through this? And then to come out the other end is it's a great experience. And it's what I love about movies. And so, yeah, I think there is an element of agitation and that, but also release. So yeah, I would like to. What I'm saying is, yeah, I'd like to agitate the audience as much as possible.
Yeah, and it's you do it so well in this movie because it happens a bunch of times where you're like, this is really tense. Oh, and then and it's you don't know when it's coming, but when it's great. It's really well done. Very
Thank
well
you.
done.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts, and this is my second favorite performance from you, Nikki, as well in this scene.
Aw, that's so nice.
Is, and I won't go into great detail, but the Hannah sequence and how it goes from something that is quite normal to a relationship, from the phone call or the text message, whatever it is, and then where it ends up. It's like you could not possibly guess where this is going each step of the way. And Nikki, I felt like you did such a good job of, like, again, displaying like a whole range of emotions over the course of one event. I was really impressed with that. And my question is, does that have any real world experience for you? Does that come from reality?
I mean, I wish I could say that I had a real experience like that, because that was the most insane, funny situation ever. I haven't had that specific experience, but I guess I feel like I've experienced things where you think things are one way and then it completely derails you and goes a different way. Like I loved Bridge's performance in that too, because it goes from me being so freaking angry at him for thinking, that something else has happened, not to give anything away. And then to almost like feeling bad for him, like laughing at him, to feeling, we've all been like, oh, oops. Oh no, what a schmuck. So that part of it was so fun to ride because Bridge plays that so well too. And that's my favorite thing about, like, I think acting, and specifically in this movie, especially with indies, because like you get to lose yourself in a way in indie filmmaking that's so different than in like network TV or some of the bigger movies, because it feels almost like theater with that sense of like losing yourself in the cut until like Bridge says cut. You are in it, right? So a lot, like in that scene especially, I remember laughing in the moment, really laughing in the moment. And for like, even though we were doing take after take, it was actually very funny because it was people were so alive, and like Bridge's reactions were so alive. And because, we're not, they're the other actors too are killing it in that scene, but it's, everyone was so present.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite kind of like acting and movie making too, because you're so in it. And there aren't like a ton of people on set, you're on a guerrilla crew. So it really does feel like you could snap your fingers and you're there, like you're not worried about lighting or the boomer standing in your way, or, you're really playing.
Was there any improv on set, or is everyone pretty much stick to the script?
No, yeah. I mean, Nikki, I think you could probably answer this better, but I think there was a fair amount of improv that happened with this. Honestly, I'm kind of blanking right now. It was such a you're in the haze of the war, I guess, the fog of war on set. So I kind of lose track of what's script and what isn't. But I love it because there's such a natural element to improv that like I want with a movie like this, that I try to encourage people to improv with that. But Nikki, you could probably answer that. I'm not gonna speak to how the actors felt about the improv level.
That's also why another reason I love working with Bridge is that he does allow for improv, and as long because you get to connect and fly. So the way we would do it is we would do it as written. We get that take, and then we do it, and then you would be like, great, we'll do it again, and then you can say it how you feel or how you want it. So, and I would still stay within the lines of it. Nothing was ever so off the wall. But we did get the freedom artistically to kind of add our own spin to things, which made it really fun, because you don't usually get to improv like that. The writer director isn't usually the same person and the actor with you. So, we're getting to play, and the improv part of it was really, really fun. It was mostly what I think was written.
Yeah, I'm blanking on it too. Honestly, I'm trying to remember what was what, and I've sort of I can't remember what was what. It all was pretty seamless. So that's a testament to the improv.
But I remember you saying like, you can, if you want to go ahead, if you want to add stuff, go ahead. Like, do your thing. I do remember that. But I guess it's a testament to like us being in it, because I have no idea. And the good writing. It felt natural.
Yeah. I wanted to hear more about the soundtrack because it's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I'm saying thank you. It's not like I made the music. But like I used one of it's all kind of it's vaguely Motown soul kind of feeling to it. A big element of that is I feel like that is not only kind of the best music that's ever been made, but also like the most feel good music that exists in this world is, so like music from the 60s and 70s. Soul music is just, there's something about it that like fills me with like excitement for life and things like that. And I feel like a movie like this, it gets tense, and there's a lot of arguing and a lot of fighting that goes on. And to be able to juxtapose that with, music that makes you feel good, I think I think the audience appreciates that, just to, again, going back to the tension and release sort of idea, it's like a lot of it, these scenes are huge fights at the end, and then you have a fun, soundtrack going on underneath. And I think, that helps a lot. And I think it's also just funny to have that kind of music, like over what's happening with these characters. So yeah, I love that kind of music, the soul and Motown stuff. Yeah.
It's another character in the film, which is what Bridge did such a great job with the music. it adds like there is comedy elements from the music that are unexpected for me when I was watching it, because I was like, oh, this is not, I didn't know this obviously when we were filming it, but it feels like it is another comedic character, and I think you did that on purpose, which I love. I had no idea, but it feels like a narration's perspective, or like the audience perspective.
So as I was watching, I had a odd moment of realization. I don't normally record where I'm sitting right now, but I had to. When you guys are in the office of the investment banker, Arnold played to perfection by Will Madden, who is now like, I need to be in the Will Madden business. You know what I mean?
He's incredible.
But there was a lamp, and I was like, wait a second. I've seen that lamp before. And it's the lamp in my living room. And I was like, that has nothing to do with anything, but I just had to mention it. I was like, that's my lamp. Like,
no, this is good. Yeah.
This is
this is serendipitous here. Yeah.
So not to put you both on the spot, and I guess we'll go Bridge first and then Nikki. Do you have any advice? You know, we're living in an interesting age of filmmaking, and we have streaming and YouTube and theaters, and we have a lot of different things going on. Do you have any advice for people who are looking to make their own thing?
What I would say is that, like, and this sort of echoes a lot of what's been said by like the Duplass brothers and stuff, is like things like, if you can, we all have a budget, and and I sort of said this earlier, it's like, if you can just get out and make something, because you can wait years to greenlight, wait for things to get made. And if you can just figure out a way to be able to get all your friends together, all the people who are hopefully you've built a group around you that are talented and you respect, and that's part of the process, is just surrounding yourself with very talented people, because it's such a collaborative medium, film, that the more talented people you can surround yourself with, and you build your life around surrounding yourself with talented people, and then just go and make something that you really love, just do it. And it's hard, it's a pain in the ass, but ultimately on the other end, you'll be really happy that you did it, and you'll create some great memories with talented people, and then you move on to the next thing. It's hard right now just because everybody knows this. I mean, there's strikes, there's streaming services collapsing and all that, but still, you just can't really wait around. Do the waiting game while you also make your own stuff.
Right.
Is my thing. And also just be working on multiple projects too. Just like always, immerse yourself in creation and working on projects and talented people. Yeah, do that.
I love what Bridge just said. To add to that, I think to say yes, right? I think saying yes to like doing your friends' projects, say yes to collaborating and working together. I've worked on shorts and some features, like when I started out, especially with friends, where I wasn't like, I had like a 1 or 2 liner, or, I've even helped with Crafty on some of my friends' stuff. Like, when you build a good community of people that you believe in and that are talented as well, I think you rise up together. So like helping each other out and saying yes, I think is huge. Because I think so much with this industry is you're throwing spaghetti at the wall and you don't know what's going to stick.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so all you can do is put joy into what you are doing. Right. Like the only thing I can control is that I'm putting my spin on it artistically and I'm having fun. And I like the people I work with. That's pretty much the only control I have. So for me, especially, like I still don't know what's going to hit, right? Like I didn't know when we were making this was going to be so great. It was just fun to do. And it was Bridge. So yes,
Yeah.
So I think like in that sense, I think so many people, like, we can get stuck as actors thinking that our careers are going to start off one way. And I think being open to, there's no linear path. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And so it's just like Bridge said, I think you just do what you love and say yes to your projects, say yes to your friends. And you never know, right? Like even with auditions and stuff, I think I audition a ton and I don't get most of the stuff I go out for, but I do think every failure leads to a win eventually, every failed comedic audition I had led me to getting this part with Bridge and having him think I was funny, because you're working your skills all the time when you're auditioning or when you're working with your friends and making stuff even for free. Like I do sketch at UCB for free just because it's fun to do comedy. And I think that lends into just my skill set as an actress now, it's not just one thing. It's all, I think everything, it's such a journey. It's so corny, but it really is a journey. It's like it's a whole package deal when you're like acting, writing, directing. And, Bridge is inspiring for me because like I haven't directed anything yet. I've written stuff that I'm too scared to give anybody, but one day I'll do it. That sounds like that's way too vulnerable. But I think just say yes, especially because it is a hard time right now. So, gosh, if you can make stuff with your friends, do it. Like that can be so fulfilling and it takes your power back in a way that's so refreshing because you're not waiting for someone. You're not waiting for a suit to say yes or a network to say yes to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah. And a lot of the filmmakers that we talk with are all saying the exact same thing, that it's like the time for waiting, for someone to come along and give you permission is kind of over. And, thankfully, we live in a time where access to equipment and distribution is so much more easier than it ever has been. So if you want to be creative, you can do that. You might not be, John Huston but you can be, Bridge Stewart and Nikki McKenzie, and you can still make things and people can still see them. So
totally. And I think you just keep getting better. It always, you always like learn.
Yeah.
I learned a ton from making this movie that I brought into other things I've done. And I'm sure, it's all just I think it's all just throwing spaghetti at the thing. And obviously it takes talent and dedication and trying better, but always trying to be your best, I think is the way to do it. And especially in this climate, ironically, I do think this is the time for indie filmmaking with all the strikes.
I agree.
Right. And so perfect timing, Bridge. Wow. we did not see this coming, but it's a different world right now. You have movie stars doing TV, which is great. But it's just different. You're up for different. The auditions that have very much changed from when I started this. It's very interesting. But I also think there's a lot on the hopeful side. There's a lot more opportunity for some magic to happen with some indie stuff where people are willing to take more of a chance when you're like, hey, when something is just good, even if you're like a no name or not super famous yet, people are willing to, watch it or give it a shot, that's exciting. This is such a tangent, but I saw Will Madden striking. I don't know if I told you this, Bridge, but I didn't recognize him because in person he is way cool. I'm like, he's very cool and just like a very like a dude I'd hang out with, but he played that character so well. He stopped me and I had a moment where I was like, who is this dude? And then he was like, you don't recognize me. I was like, oh my god, hi, I will. Anyway, funny that I thought that was he really played that so well because he is not that person in real life.
Yeah. Will Madden, the guy in our film, he plays a lot of kind of creepy antagonist roles in a lot of his films, and he is not that at all in real. He is the exact opposite of that in real life.
Yeah, he was awesome.
He did great in this.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
Genuinely, everyone did quite well. Sometimes when you press play on on something, you're like, all right, here we go. Like, what is this? And you kind of brace yourself for it to be like terrible. And I just like I said, right away within the first few minutes, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And just throughout the whole thing, every person, I have no reason to lie to you, but yeah, like locations were great, well fleshed out. They felt like real places. They didn't feel like movie sets. Everybody did. Yeah, it was very, very enjoyable. So I know you guys are here at the Stony Brook Film Festival. And
it premiered in Sedona, the International Film
Yes.
Festival. Is it touring other festivals? What's the plan that you guys are working on?
Yeah, it's still on the festival circuit. Still trying. It's still. Yeah, I'm waiting to hear back from other festivals and just hopefully get in as many places, because this is really a movie for like I love it in front of an audience. Like one of my some of my favorite memories of my life is being in the theater for comedies, and so being able to laugh with an audience. And this is one of those movies. So yeah, the goal is to get it in theaters and festivals. That is the goal for this film. Yeah.
Awesome.
Michelle, did you have anything else?
I have one more question, and it has nothing to do with the movie. So, Seth, if you have any serious movie questions, go ahead and ask it. You let me know.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, no, my only question is, and I love to ask this question, but I would love to know from both of you, if you were a pasta noodle, what kind of noodle would you be? What? I want to know, Seth. I love.
I don't know how I know. I don't know how I didn't know that was the question coming, because I know that about you. So
yeah,
I think like maybe like okay, so I don't know the name of the noodle, but like in Pod CU, I believe it's like it's a racha noodle, right? Is that what it's called? It's like really wide and sort of thin, but I I might just sound like an idiot here, but I think it's a racha noodle. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why.
You just feel it.
It's just a pure feeling, on
Okay.
this one.
That's what it's all about. You know what noodle you are from a gut feeling.
Wide and thin, flapping in the wind.
Exactly.
I guess I'd say a gnocchi. Is that a noodle?
Yeah, man.
Noodle. Well, because it's like kind of a potato. It's kind of a noodle, and it's like so. I feel like it appeals to the masses.
Interesting.
More, it's a flavor that is fun, and it's many different flavors in your mouth.
Perfect. And who doesn't love gnocchi?
Exactly. I just had to answer.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us. Like I said, we really enjoyed the film.
You.
And
so much, guys. This was really great. Yeah,
we
really
can't wait to share it with everyone. We'll link everything in our show notes. Gotta see this movie, guys. Everyone should see this movie.
Big thanks again to Bridge and Nikki. And remember, folks, no one is coming along to give you permission. Find your creative community, say yes to projects, say yes to your own projects, and get out there and make something. Thank you so much for listening. Send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. And you can also support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. Until next time, have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Vicora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks.